Hello guys, and welcome back to Business as Usual. In this video we'll be looking at climate change, recently what's been happening in the news, so the COP28 conference in Dubai. So it's been a little while since I posted a video, unless you follow my OnlyFans page. In that case, no, I'm just joking. I don't have an OnlyFans yet. Cost of living is getting quite bad. So COP28 conference is going on in Dubai. It's being led by one of the top oil company executives in all of kind of Saudi Arabia. Huge kind of vested interest there, but they have said that this is not going to be like the previous 27 COPs, then it will result in meaningful change. Because the UN and the IPCC have both confirmed that based on our current trajectory, based on how much we're using fossil fuels, how much we're contributing to global warming, that by 2050, 2060, we're heading towards a 2.2 degree world, which will lead to massive climate breakdown and much more extreme weather events, and in parts will make it hard for society to continue running, which is pretty heavy stuff. And the UK government has just announced a £1.6 million investment in various kind of fossil fuel initiatives and projects. And generally, the main thing that people from the top, especially the UK government, will say is that they're doing much better than what they are actually doing. There's a lot of greenwashing and, in some cases, just downright lies. But the main message is that climate change is like a hugely complex problem, and we just don't have the solutions for it. It's very complex, it's very multifaceted, and we just don't have all the answers, which is what they want you to think. So there is actually, we do have all the answers. There is a book called The Sixth Carbon Budget, which is written by the committee that advises the UK government on climate change. The Sixth Carbon Budget, it's a book which essentially breaks down sector by sector, so like transport, infrastructure, all kind of relevant sections in regards of how we can achieve net zero by 2050. However, it also shows how the UK government is failing to hit a lot of those targets and follow that framework. In some cases, they're like 30% of the way where they should be, like 100. Now, generally, we have like a thing in politics at the minute, and maybe various parts of the world, where there is no accountability. So you show someone doing what they've made a promise to do this thing, opposition or someone will be like, hey, we have evidence that you're not doing this thing, and you're failing on your agreements. And then their response is, no, we're doing just fine, and hey, look at this thing that's completely separate that we're doing really good on. Most times where I'll look into Rishi Sunak interviews, or the general kind of debates that are held in Westminster, it's always kind of the same rhythm, which is they say how good they're doing, someone else points out that they're not doing that good, or that they are failing a target which they've set, and they can even provide evidence, so it's very hard to dispute, and they will largely try and deny it. And then if they can't legitimately deny it that well, they will just try and shift the focus to something else good that they're doing, and mainly just keep pushing and talking about that, that is generally, there's many interviews and many videos of responses and back and forth in Westminster and House of Commons, and that format is followed almost every single time. There is a distinct lack of accountability, and the UK government largely want to communicate that they're doing much better than what they are doing, even though they're scaling back their climate pledges, and that the solutions aren't there. It's a huge problem, and it should largely be focused on by the rest of the world because we're doing so good. However, the sixth carbon budget shows that we are not hitting our targets. We are not, that we are failing the general kind of blueprint that will lead to net zero by 2050. And there is only one explanation for it. From what I see, there's one explanation to the UK government failing to hit those targets, knowingly failing to hit those targets, and telling people that they're doing amazing. They are obviously like largely in bed with the oil companies. However, ironically, it is the public and the global south which are getting fucked. So with all the kind of data coming out about the extreme weather and heat temperature rises that are currently going on, and all the predictions that if we continue as we're going, it's going to get worse, to then knowingly essentially set targets that and not hit them, and consciously do policies which will make those much worse. The only thing which makes sense is Rishi Sunak and the current UK government have sold their souls to the oil companies. Like, they've sold their souls to the devil. It's the only thing that makes sense. Like, Rishi Sunak has went to a black mass and has written his name in blood, because essentially at this point it's very clear that they're creating the conditions for the end of the world, and the end of the human species. And the only way that makes sense to knowingly do that while lying to people that you're not doing that is that you've made a deal with the Antichrist. Like, your agreement with the Antichrist to help end the world is the only thing that makes sense. Like, the Bible was wrong where it said like the world would end with fire and brimstone. The world actually is going to end with Rishi Sunak, oil companies, and the UK government, like with policy making. I'm just saying that if you hook Rishi Sunak up to a lie detector, which is the only way that he'll most likely tell the truth, and ask him if he's been to a black mass before, what happened, and what kind of reward that he is getting for trying to create the end of the world. Now, the previous government, Boris Johnson's government, was largely about setting climate change goals and making policies that would make carbon neutral by 2050 a possibility, which would create the conditions that we've had for the past 10,000-12,000 years, which is like climate stability, society continuing, and is generally setting a good environment and good conditions for survival for future generations, which makes sense. because he has so many children. Like he has a lot of kids, so it would make sense that he really cares about future generations. So in summary, this has been this video has been partially looking at the news, partially analysing how the UK government are saying one thing and doing another. How the UK government are claiming to be on the side of renewables and a green future, but are massively in the pocket of oil companies, fossil fuel companies, and most importantly, the Antichrist. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope this informs your decision to vote in the next general election or to vote for the next political party, because it's clear at this point that Rishi Sunak and the UK government are on the side of the Antichrist and are trying to bring about the end of the world and the end of human civilization, just like it said in the Bible. But at the time that the Bible was written, obviously they didn't know about Rishi Sunak and they didn't have or know about oil companies. So they did their best with the information that they had. And that's what we can do. Thank you.